Hello, and welcome to This Week in Government. I'm Tina Evans, and with me today is the Minister of Education, the Honorable Diallo Rabain. Today we're going to be talking about the throne speech, the recent throne speech, and the initiatives and programs and plans that the Ministry of Education has in place for this legislative year. Minister Diallo Rabain, welcome.
Thank you, Tina, for having me.
Yeah. We were talking before we started filming. I said, you are one of the most photographed in the newspaper, in the media ministers.
Yes, and what we're doing to create change in education here in Bermuda sometimes attracts attention, whether it be warranted or not warranted. But I do know that we are disrupting our current system, and we're putting something in place that we can all be proud of, that's going to give our students an opportunity to succeed, whether it be locally or whether it be internationally.
Right. And disruptive is that catchphrase right now, but it's a good thing.
It's a good disruption.
It means change. Yes, indeed. Let's get right into it. But before we do, let me just make sure we have our audience understands the multifaceted ministry of the Ministry of Education. A lot of people will say, well, what's the difference between the ministry, the department, and what's this new thing called the Education Reform Unit? So if you would just take a couple of minutes to just share with the audience, what are the different facets and what are their functions?
You know, it's interesting that we say that. In terms of departments, the ministry is one of the smallest departments, where we have the Department of Education, the Department of Libraries and Archives, are the only departments that are underneath the ministry. However, we have one of the largest ministries with the second largest budget in all of government, with the Department of Education with over 1,000 employees. And so how our ministry works, we have the ministry offices that issue out policy directives. You have the Department of Education, who's under the direction of the Commissioner of Education, who has the sole remit and covers all of education in the public education sphere. And of course, you have the Libraries and Archives that cover libraries and archives. And so you get the interchanging of the ministry and department quite a bit, but the department, as I said, under the direction of the commissioner has the final say on all things that happen within the Department of Education, and the ministry's role is to offer direction and guidance to where we should be going. But at the end of the day, it is the commissioner that makes the final decision on most things that come out of the Department of Education.
Right. So at the ministry, you have a permanent secretary, Jasmine Smith.
Yes.
The department, you have the commissioner.
The commissioner, and working with the commissioner are the two directors. And then you have assistant directors, and then beneath the assistant directors, you have the educational officers.
Okay.
And that is the what they call a senior executive team that's responsible for all things education.
Right. And that's headed by Calvin Richards.
That's headed by the commissioner.
All right. So thank you for putting that in perspective for us and understanding that there's a ministry responsibility and the department. What then is the Education Reform Unit that you announced last year? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. What we had done when we first embarked on the education reform, we had the department really doing the work, and out of the department, a subgroup was formed, and we called that the Learning First Group. And they were responsible for moving along and doing all of the initial work that got us to that point. What we did observe, and this is really a testament of how we've gone about education reform, and that is by doing it in phases allows us to learn from what we've done in one phase and improve on that as we move forward. It became unwieldy somewhat to have the Department of Education concentrating on operating schools, but also operating on education reform and sort of splitting their time. And what we did find was instead of us progressing as fast and as efficiently as we were constantly coming up against, well, I wasn't able to do this because this came up.
Right.
And so what I've done is, and this is as the minister, created a unit called the Education Reform Unit that works directly out of the minister's office. And that unit has been staffed with persons that have been pulled from various government departments. Not all of them are from within education, because there are other things that need to be done. But typically, it's made up out of officers that have been working in other government departments as well as within education. And their sole remit is to work exclusively on the education reform agenda.
Okay. I remember at a recent press conference, and thank you for that. Who's that headed by, the Education Reform Unit?
The Education Reform Unit is headed by veteran education official Lisa De Silva, who comes from the Department of Education, who's gone through the ranks as educator, principal, and then assistant director, and then she was in office.
She's a veteran.
She's a veteran of,
Yes.
of the education system,
Yes.
and so it's actually working out very, very well. She is probably one of the best persons we've had in this position to lead this charge forward.
This education reform, and we're going to talk about that but I just want to hit another point. A reporter also asked you, said, what is the role of the innovation unit, and who are they? And I remember you explained that it was good.
The innovation unit is our partners that we partnered with, our consultants out of Australia and New Zealand. The innovation unit have a track record of helping to transform systems around the world, and and what really caught our attention with them is their processes is not to come and take over and say this is what you're doing, is to support and help nurture the local persons to be able to facilitate that change that we're looking for. So essentially they're here as we would call them our change partners, to really help us change the mindsets about how education can do, and give us ways of how we can go there and do that. So that's what really started off with us doing a lot of meetings and collection of data, talking to the people and asking them, what is it that you want to see? Those are suggestions and ideas that have come out of that unit, but they've consistently supported the education reform team and the people who were working on it before and learning first in more of a background role than being upfront and the person's doing the actual work in the public eye.
Yeah, that explains their role and the role of the education reform unit.
Yes.
It's the other thing that you had said was when we started, actually the first part of the throne speech, the first thing that the governor started speaking about, or actually started speaking about, was education.
Yes.
Now, go ahead.
And that was done that was done on purpose.
Yeah.
We want the public to recognize and remind them consistently that the reforming our education system is of paramount importance to this government. A country cannot succeed with an education system that does not equip its citizens to be the next ones in line to take over that country, lead that country forward, and continue to progress that country. So it's critically important for us to have a education system that gives our children every single possible chance to succeed.
Yeah, and you also said, and I heard you very clearly talk about, this is a system that is being designed by Bermudians. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
And as I said, when we asked me about the innovation unit, it's critical for them, and they've always maintained that the success of transformation is that Bermudians, or the people that will be remaining in the system, are fully trained, are fully able to grasp it, are fully able to move it forward, and fully able to continue to evolve the system, because at some point your partners, such as an innovation unit, will not be here. And so once they leave, we cannot just, the innovation and the advancement of education cannot just stop. And I think that also is an important point for persons to understand is we have suffered greatly in the past because we've looked at doing different things with education, and then once we put it in place, we walk away. The world changes constantly. The way we educate our children must change to keep up with that pace. But if we put something in place that doesn't evolve as the world evolves, we'll find ourselves right back at where we are now, and where we find ourselves when we started this transformation. And what you put in place is just a fad. It's not something that is retained, not something that continues to evolve, and something that continues to give our students the best opportunities to succeed.
Yeah, and I know we've here on this point, but it's also that it be culturally sensitive
Yes.
to who we are.
Exactly,
You know?
exactly.
Okay, go ahead.
And so we often hear, and I know when I became minister,
Minister.
one of the first things that people would always send me videos from Finland and videos
Right.
from Singapore, and look what they're doing, look what they're doing. And since I've grown into this role, I recognize, and this also comes from talking to these people face to face. I've had opportunities to talk to the education systems in Singapore. I've had opportunities to talk to the Minister of Education in Finland, and you get from them, and in those situations, the education system is so attuned to the cultural sensitivities of the country. And it has to be, because when you go to a Finland and you recognize that, one, there are no private schools, two, everybody is pulling for education, and three, everybody puts their money where their mouth is. The people who make more money donate more towards education. The people who make less are subsidized so they can give their children the best possible starts in life. You know, those are cultural things that have to happen in order for that type of system to work. So for us to transform education, we have to take into account what our cultural sensitivities are, what are our cultural norms, what is the things that we will do naturally as Bermudians, and bake that into the education system as well.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna take a break, and I'm gonna come back. We will talk about the throne speech.
Okay.
We will talk about signature schools, and we'll talk about Parish Primary, and also the big one that came up, the Education Authority. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. All right, we'll be right back to talk some more with the Minister of Education, the Honorable Diallo Rabain. We'll be right back.
Every day, thousands of kids start vaping. And I can't let this happen to my kid. Of course, it's awkward to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping. Hey, bestie, how's sketches, vaping? It's hard to get their attention. Ready? Go. Yes. Look at that. You even turn yours over. So if you want to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping, you got to get it trending.
No, you're doing it wrong.
Let's go.
Can we talk?
Yeah, what's up?
Visit talkaboutvaping.org for tips on when and how to have the vape talk.
And we're back and talking with the Minister of Education and the Honorable Diallo Rabain. Now we're going to get to the throne speech, okay? So right at the beginning, the governor comes, starts reading. First thing she starts talking about is education, some of the successes that have happened over the past year. And then she says, basically something along the lines, it takes time to get it right, education. We've been on this education reform now, this journey of, how long has it been?
It's just been just under 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
We've been exclusively working on education reform.
Right. And we'll go back to how long you've been education minister in a minute, your tenure. But let's talk about it. Last year you saw some success.
Yes.
Talk about some of the successes you saw last year, how you're going to build on them this year.
Well, last year we introduced our signature programs at the Berkeley Institute and Cedar Bridge Academy. We've just completed the first year of those, and so we've now got S1s and now S2s starting in their signature programs. The results from that are promising. The data that we've collected primarily shows that over 70% of our students are reacting positively to the new program. They are saying that they feel that they're being challenged adequately and it's piquing their interest. We're even hearing from our principals at both of those schools that they're seeing a higher level of success amongst the signature school, the signature program students, resulting in less retakes and assignments being turned in on time and not being late. So those are some of the positives. I don't want to say that it's all perfect. And we will continue to grow and we'll continue to work on that. One of the things that will be coming out is a public report on how the first year took place. One of the things that we consistently hear about public education is that it's hard to find hardcore data to actually back up the things that we're doing. And one of the things that we've had to accept begrudgingly, but for some, not for all, is that we have to show the public what we're doing, the lumps and bumps and everything, whether what we're doing good, what we're doing bad. And so they can have something to judge against, what we were doing this year and how it's being improved for the following year. And so we need to also attack some of the myths that are out there that is really being produced or sent with anecdotal data. Like one of the things, even when we sat down to do this, one of the things that the team said was like, well, how are we going to address the fact that there are more students in private school that are in public school? And once we showed them the data that says, and never in any time in Bermuda has there been more private school students and public school students, they're shocked. But because those are the things that have not been made public,
Right.
that people run with. We also have introduced the Parish Primary Schools this year at Warwick Parish and Hamilton Parish, at the Francis Patton School site and the Purvis Primary School site. Again, going through some difficulties there that we're working through. We're working the problem. We knew it wasn't going to be all, it wasn't going to be just smoothly run as soon as we put things in place. Because again, we're introducing things that people are simply not, some people are just not accustomed to, and we're asking them to do things that are different from what they may have been doing for, in some cases, decades. But at the end of the day, I truly, truly believe that all of us are looking out for what is best for our children and their futures. But it's, in some cases, it's just a matter of us coming to an agreement of what is the best way to implement that.
Okay, so the signature schools are up and the signature programs.
Yes.
They're at Barkley
And Cedar Bridge.
and Cedar Bridge. Only at the senior level?
Only at the senior level is the signature programs. As we continue to evolve education, the exposure to what the signature programs are happens now at the middle school level, but will eventually happen in the primary school level as we continue to phase out the middle school and introduce just primary and senior school. And so what our students do when they go to first of all, before they attend the school, they are given an immersion program that shows them all of the signatures and what they entail.
And just tell us real quickly, what's one or two of the signature?
At Cedar Bridge Academy, we have STEM, which stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. We also have trades, which is important to mention because everyone talks about we need to have a trade school. We need to have a trade school. We have trades in the school, and we now have focused programs on the trades. At Barkley, we have insurance and financial services and social services here at the Barkley Institute. Now, under those signatures, you have what we call signature. We have signature learning tracks. And so, for example, under STEM at Cedar Bridge, you'd have engineering. You have computer science and different things like that. Under the trades track, we have culinary arts, we have carpentry, we have textiles, and we also have cosmetology and things like that. So as we evolve, and as education evolves, the idea is that these tracks will tweak and change. So there could be an opportunity for the data, as we talked about earlier, as we continuously evolving the education offerings. As we continue to collect data, there could be a specialized course that falls under the trades. We now have electric cars. There could be a specialized course that say, hey, we need a lot more mechanics that are specialized in electric cars. That could be a track that can be easily added and students be interested in that. And so the idea is that you expose our students at the middle school level. Right now it's at the M2 and M3 level, and they get exposed to these. And the exposure is given not by Department of Education officials, it's given by industry.
Oh, okay.
We have industry come in and say, this is what our industry involves. The last one that I attended at Sands Secondary Middle School, we had companies like KPMG, Bermuda Tourism Authority, BIOS.
And so they come in and they're
giving examples of what it is that their industry does. One episode I went to, and I really want to give a shout out to the management at Hamilton Princess, because they've really, really supported this, and we look forward to opening that tourism and signature school in a couple of years at Sands. But they came forth, and what they did, which really impressed me, is the team they sent were young, black, males and females, and they weren't there to talk about what people could traditionally think about hospitality, housekeeping, bartending, and different things like that. These were people that were in the management program. These were people that were in the PR programs. They actually managed entities within the hotel to talk about and give our students a real life opportunity to see what exactly happens within these fields. When KPMG came, what was one thing that was really impressive was a young man that it was one of the first recipients of a new scholarship that we had introduced, and that's a scholarship specifically for students with exceptionalities. This young man he walks with two canes, and he's graduated utilizing the funding that we gave out of a school in Georgia. He's now working as a trainee actuary at KPMG. It was wonderful to see him coming to give back and talk to our students and say, look, this is what we're doing. And so those are the types of things that we do see moving forward. And as I said, it's not been a smooth sail, but this is the reason why we're doing this in phases, so we can learn from what we've had to do to correct some things, and we applied it in the next stage as we move forward.
And I know you've said it, I think at the beginning of the school year. Thank you for the background on the signature schools, and just turning attention now to the parish primary schools. I know you said at the beginning of the year, look, the buildings weren't where they were supposed to be. We had so much rain this summer, didn't we? I mean, I couldn't believe it. We had the rainiest season around.
It's not been the easiest thing, and the weather hasn't cooperated with us, and different things.
But the buildings are being renovated to why? To handle the extra students, or the new look, the new way of teaching, or what?
It's a combination of both, of all those things. To accommodate the extra students that will be at the primary schools, because we're going from P1 through P6 to P7 and P8 additional. We're also, all of our primary schools will have the preschool located on site eventually. And there's a different level of teaching now, because think about it, we're moving what would normally happen at the middle school level into the primary school level. And so as the students move into a P7 and P8, they don't operate like they would in a primary school with one teacher, and the teacher's kind of teaching them all the topics, and we bring in specialists every now and then. They will be rotating around. They'll have specialist math teachers, they'll have specialist English teachers, they'll have specialist science teachers. We also have to talk about things like design tech, and create labs, the things that they would have done in the middle school. And so that's one of the things that we find trying to explain, and we were very patient, because those are the types of things we have to explain and get people to understand, because there's been questions of, well, why can't we do a P7 and P8 in all of our schools? And that would just negate really the idea of the education reform, and why we need to consolidate our schools to be able to provide the resources to all of our students, and not just a few of our students. And so, and when you're talking about adding P7 and P8, there's so much more going on. And so it's just not feasible to add that to every single one of our buildings as we move forward. And that's one of the main reasons behind the consolidation process that has to happen. 20 years ago, we had double the number of students and less buildings than we do today. Today we have 4,000, just around 4,000 students, and a few more buildings than what we had back then. It's just not sustainable, and that is one of the reasons why we must consolidate to provide our students with better opportunities.
Yeah. But when we talk about that cultural sensitivity, that it all goes hand in hand, because people say that's my school, that's my But and our time is running out, and I have to get to this question. The Education Authority, we've heard about it. It got mentioned. Is it a reality, or is it going to be, or what? Go ahead.
The Education Authority is something that it's something that we've been working on for over 2 years. We're now at the point where the team that's working on that, the Education Authority Working Group, is talking with chambers on how the legislation can be pulled together to move forward. We do intend to table that legislation in this legislative year to set the framework for helping us to put this together. And I will say this, because I've said it on the international stage, and I would let Bermuda know right now that when we say we're putting an education authority and we talk about the rationales why, there are countries much larger than us pleading for us to give them, how did you guys manage to pull this off? Because the idea of an education authority is to put education in a position where it's operated by education professionals, not just anybody, but highly skilled education professionals making the decisions that can lead into better outcomes within our education system, removing the influence of political whims away from the changing of whatever processes might be in place. I know that I'm not going to be in this seat for the rest of my life. Someone else will sit here. My goal, my aim is to leave Bermuda with a system that they can be rest assured will not change overnight because of the person who sits in my seat. And that is what our children deserve. They deserve something that is consistent. They deserve something that's being run by persons who absolutely have the abilities to run it. And they also deserve to have school systems that at the basic level, and that is at the school level, leaders and educators that are able to give them the best opportunities to succeed. That is having leaders and educators that are able to put together programs that fit the ethos of their school community. Yeah. And be able to put things in place, put the programs in place, put the types of people in place that lead to success for them.
Yeah. It is going to be interesting to watch the journey. You're going to have to come back and keep telling us and talking about the Education Authority. I know at the press conferences you get peppered with what's it going to look like? Is the minister still going to be, and all of that. And I know it's going to take time, and we are out of time, unfortunately. But before we go, you've been now education minister. I think you might be the longest for a while now.
I'm actually not the longest.
Okay.
But it's been 6 years since July of this year. Wow. I passed the 6-year mark, so it makes me one of the longest. But the longevity in this post is not my ambition. Yeah. Making a difference and leaving Bermuda with an education system that gives our children the best opportunity to succeed is my only goal. And if my tenure should end tomorrow, I walk away with my head high, knowing that we have done the work to set us on that pathway.
Well, I couldn't wrap it up better than that. Woo. Thank you, Minister.
You're welcome.
Minister of Education, talking about throne speech, signature schools, parish primary schools, so many exciting things going on in education. Believe it, people. I'm Tina Evans. We thank the Minister for coming, and this has been This Week in Government.